pain that I suffered watching my son that close to death.
The hospital said that your son was not expected to survive. Use the word miracle.
He saw things that I can't really explain.
Your son had a near-death experience.
I lifted up and I looked down. Mom was in one room. You were in another room.
Do you think my son went to heaven?
You don't have to worry. He told me everything was all right.
He's making a difference. Haven't we already had a glimpse of something? You know, the first cry of a baby, the courage of a friend, the love of a mother, a father. I see it, so I believe it. Do you?
Enda pale kwa Palume. Wakenya. Gari ndio hii. Oh, sorry, kifungu ndio hii gari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Msichali kete. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Uchukue mali yako. Uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probo.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo original.
Shika ingine. Ndio ya kuendesha.
Onesha.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia. Uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Pro Box. Sasa hii Pro Box inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wako nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid. Ukweli.
Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na Quick Bid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quick Bid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
You gotta do. Yes, you fucking think I got a cold. Bless.
Guys, we are having a lead show lined up for you. Onoisi will be on.
Wacha moto iwa Kamindo champagne inalenga mbele Mistari nazo ziko fine sikelele.
Miss Superstar Kenya will be gracing the show.
So people will use skinny, look at you, what can you do? Upepo itakurusha.
Guys, there is a new association in town.
Tell me about
Stingy Man Association. Hey, these guys are stingy, man.
And they have a tagline, they have a motto, and that is?
When you ambie?
I'll see what to do. 10 p.m. release, baby.
Kumchukulia kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday haiandikangi hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu hajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you dare. Oh, please. Let the dead bury their dead, right?
The pain that I suffered watching my son that close to death.
The hospital said that your son was not expected to survive. Use the word miracle.
He saw things that I can't really explain.
Your son had a near-death experience.
I lifted up and I looked down. Mom was in one room. You were in another room.
Do you think my son went to heaven?
You don't have to worry. He told me everything was all right.
already had a glimpse of something. From the first cry of a baby, the courage of a friend, the love of a mother, a father, I see it, so I believe it.
Do you?
This is Channel 1 lunchtime news on this 19th day of December 2020. Of course, we have lined up a lot in regards to all the events that are shaping the country and the world, even in the world of business and also on sports. On a day that as Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i is also meeting leaders from the northern frontier actually to discuss the way forward when it comes to matter security. My name is Bentro Njoe, and Simon Karuda is our sign language interpreter for this afternoon. We do value your feedback. Remember, we are live from the broadcasting house and also live on all our major and all our various social media platforms, including Facebook, including Twitter, and also our KBC app. We begin with security matters, where detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations are holding 2 police officers attached to the Critical Infrastructure Protection Unit and Acacia following a Monday afternoon bank robbery at the Prime Bank along Mombasa Road. The police officers are being interrogated to establish circumstances under which they lost 2 firearms and 60 rounds of ammunition in the heist.
What was happening? Akia was on the phone.
In an amateur video circulating on various social media platforms, a middle-aged man dressed in grey trousers, bluish t-shirt and a neon green reflector jacket is seen manning the gate of the office complex along Mombasa Road, which houses a Prime Bank branch. After a while, the man, together with his colleagues, also wearing reflector jackets, are seen walking away from the premises with bags after seemingly executing a heist in the bank.
Akiwa anatoka bila stress. Cheki. Oh my God. There's more. Aya walikuwa wengi hivi. This is millions and millions of money. Tena maanisha wameambia.
The Directorate of Criminal Investigation says they have recovered 2 firearms stolen from police officers at the scene and suspected to have been used in the robbery.
Kwani polisi walikuwa na nini? Aya wametoa nguo.
A motorbike pillion passenger is said to have dropped them outside Kiambu Hospital's gate last night.
Mwingine ameshaenda hiyo side, ameshatoa nguo.
According to the DCI, the 2 police officers attached to the Critical Infrastructure Protection Unit are being interrogated to establish the circumstances under which they lost the firearms and 60 rounds of ammunition.
Bags of money.
There's one in the black bag. The one who had the gate was standing at the gate.
The one who was at the gate has already left. Him, he went straight. Huyo ni wa pili.
According to the DCI, a cashier at the bank is also being held as investigations continue into the robbery, which left 1 security guard injured on the right arm.
Aki, did someone get shot? Aki guy. Oh my God.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Wycliffe Okech.
Away from that and to some politics now, a section of leaders from Laikipia North constituency have vowed to unite the locals and shun divisive politics that have been witnessed in most parts of the country. Led by Area Member of Parliament Sarah Korere, the leaders decried the lack of development projects in the area due to tribal animosity and bad politics. The leaders lamented that despite being promised a lot during election campaigns, development is yet to be realized. They said the only visible development was generated through the NGCDF and other small kitties from the county government.
Tutaeleweka aje na watu hawatuelewi kwamba hatuna barabara? Iko namna? Tutatangatanga aje na watu na hakuna barabara ya kutangatangia kwetu? Tunatangatanga wapi? Sisi hatutaki kushoshwa na siasa kabla ya wakati.
The leaders calling for a unity of purpose, urging residents to avoid being divided on tribal lines.
Na ile lami iko Nyeri haisaidii wewe hapa. Ile iko Maraland haisaidii ule Msamburu wako hapa. Ile iko kwa kina Alexander huko Kajiado na Narok haitusaidii sisi hapa. Kwa hivyo sisi tumesema siasa za ukabila hatutaki.
Meanwhile, Kiambaa Member of Parliament Paul Koinange has supported the president's remarks that the will of the people on the Building Bridges initiative will be heard in the referendum.
But the people of Kenya had not spoken. And people of Kenya, we will speak. And the voice that the president has said, let the people of Kenya speak for themselves. That is where we are. Money may speak, but let the people of Kenya speak for themselves.
Koinange took issues with some leaders from the Mount Kenya region who he alleges were giving false prophecy on the state of the BBI in the region.
I do a lot of things, going to the marketplace, going to the church, going to the homes of people and speaking to them and explaining to them. And they receive very positively BBI and they're happy with it. So those ones who are shouting there, it will not help, because shouting does not help anybody. And I know for the past and in many other times.
Elsewhere, UDP aspirant for Kabuchai by-election Jeremiah Marakia has accused Luhya leaders for agitating for unity, yet they are divided. Elsewhere, Swedish ambassador to Kenya, Caroline Vicini, has called upon Kenyans from various ethnic communities to uphold peaceful coexistence for creation of a conducive environment for investment. Caroline was speaking at the Kalama Community Wildlife Conservancy, where she assessed various projects implemented by the Northern Rangelands Trust with support from the Swedish government in Isiolo and Samburu counties.
Swedish ambassador to Kenya, Caroline Vicini, visited Kalama Community Wildlife Conservancy, where she encouraged pastoralist communities to embrace harmonious living for economic prosperity.
I also come from a very prosperous country where we have one of the highest living standards in the whole world. And I think, particularly the peace ambassadors here, but I think everyone else can understand the link between these two things.
Ambassador Vicini officially launched two programs that seek to empower women and youths in the region through offering interest-free loans that will enable them start small business enterprises. Director of Programs at the Northern Rangelands Trust NRT, Dr. Elizabeth Panturen, said that the programs have played a key role towards persuading Morans from the region to keep off dangerous activities and turn to other ways of sustainable livelihood.
The Swedish Embassy, NRT, and the county government are pulling together to be able to facilitate communities address their felt needs. And so the moment they take control and they take charge, ours is just to come in and ensure that they have the technical advice and the resources required for them to address their...
Reporting for Channel 1, I'm Jacqueline Masharia.
Moving on, a section of parents in Kiambu County are protesting the move by some schools to increase fees through veiled charges a day after President Uhuru Kenyatta warned school heads found culpable of irregularly sending children home.
Furious parents are protesting the move by a male preparatory school at Kimbo in Juja to increase school fees 2 weeks after their children reported back to school.
Wanatuongezea fees vile wanataka. For this time wakati tumefungua wametuletea fees ambapo tumelipa after 1 week tukapewa structure ingine ya fees.
na hatukuwa tumejitayarisha kwenda kulipa hiyo fees.
Ifi yenye tumeongezewa hii shule after 2 weeks of kurudisha watoto, mimi kama mzazi wa huku siyuko ready kulipa juu nilikuwa nishajipanga.
The parents stormed the institution seeking audience with the school management, but they were stopped by police officers.
Huyu mwenye hii shule kama anataka kuongeza fee, anafaa kwanza ana communicate na wazazi, wanasikizana na anatueleza.
They say the institution had issued them with the normal fee structure, which they used to return the children back to school. However, 2 weeks later, they were advised to pay an additional 6,000 shillings.
Actually, in the 21st century, it's the first school to hear that we don't have parent association.
Aggrieved parents also fault the institution for failing to meet COVID-19 prevention protocols issued by the Ministry of Health.
Toilet zao ni chafu. Ukiingia toilet, watoto wanateta pia. Tunaitishwa tissue 6 ama 4, ukipatiana shule, mwalimu anapatiana tissue at once. Ukikatua moja, mtoto akiitisha ingine, anaambiwa aende nyumbani.
We have seen how our children have been overcrowding in buses. We want, and even in classes, we want to say that we don't want to receive our children back in caskets.
The parents are calling on Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha to intervene and help their children remain in school.
From education matters, let's now cross over to the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, where Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i is holding a stakeholders meeting with leaders from the northern Kenya in regards to security matters. Let's now cross over there for more.
We are building a relationship, and we are trying to ensure that we sort out some of the mistakes that may have been done in the past. So we have agreed on how we are going to work on this. Some of the decisions we have made, for example, in relation to administrative boundaries and how they are going to be sorted out, are not things we will do overnight. We will work on them, and we will continue to consult one another. Because the hallmark of a society that is going to survive and go far is that we have to be at the table talking to one another all the time. And that is what we have done this morning, and that is what we are going to continue to do. We were accompanied by the Inspector General of the National Police Service, Mr. Mutiambai, the 2 DIGs, my colleagues, the regional commissioners for Northeastern and Eastern, all the county commissioners from the counties concerned, and the teams from the police command that are handling this matter. We've come to an agreement on the various actions that need to be taken, and I want to urge the leaders that it is now our turn to lead the way in observing the agreements we have reached, especially in ensuring that we check some of the ways in which we express ourselves. I know that when we have conflict or when we have challenges, passions are inflamed, and there is a temptation always to point fingers, even using language that could inflame passions further and worsen conflict. I want to plead with my brothers and sisters who are standing behind me, and then those of our colleagues in the political practice, that we have a country to manage. We have a people to lead. And even when we have challenges such as we do, or such as we have had on the boundaries between Wajir, Garissa, and Isiolo, we always must remember that even beyond that conflict, we are family, we are one nation, and we must remain together as we go forward. So we will ensure that we police this better. The Inspector General has undertaken to look into the deployment of our police resources on that boundary, and we will do our best to ensure that we serve our people in that part of the country effectively. We are now conducting an audit of the National Police Reservists and the KPRs in that part of our country, as directed by His Excellency the President in his capacity as the Chair of the National Security Council, and we are looking at how we have used those resources in the past and if we can use them better. We will soon also begin a very aggressive exercise of disarmament. It is possible, actually, that in some parts of our country like that one, we have more arms that are in wrong hands, and we will conduct that exercise very aggressively soon. The Inspector General and our team are working on the plan, and within a very short time we'll begin to deal with that problem. Since I have this opportunity, let me conclude my remarks by making a point on what is going on in Kapedo. As I said yesterday, the statement I issued, what happened is that our senior police officer was murdered. There was no conflict. It was a clear case of a premeditated, planned ambush that was targeting our Deputy Director of Operations with the GSU. Kenyans know this, and there are times when we must speak to each other candidly and stop pretending and doing public relations about some of these things. That part of our country has been very costly to us in the security sector. We have lost security officials there. We have lost Ngao officials there. We have lost innocent Wananchi. And there is a culture in that part of our country which seems to protect negative and criminal armament that disguises, first of all, as cat rustling, but in actual fact, it is funded. And I want to say this, it is funded. We are in hot pursuit of certain people, including leaders. And I want to assure the country on this particular score, we are going to act very decisively. We will make sure that those who are involved in that are facilitated to meet with the law. Because that will not happen. And then by the time we are done with what we are doing there, it will be a story to be told in generations to come when there will be no such violence in that place. Because they asked for us to move there, we have moved our policing resources there, and we are going to increase very stiff resources in that part of the country. I am asking those who know those people who murdered our senior police officer to surrender them. But if they don't want to surrender them, we will still go for them. We will look for them. It doesn't matter how long it's going to take us. And it does not matter what resources we are going to use. We will get them and bring them to justice. Because we cannot allow that kind of lawlessness to persist in our country. Some people have done that, including leaders. I need to emphasize it, including leaders. And they've gotten away with that kind of behavior for far too long. That time has come when we must have a honest conversation on that matter. And my colleagues in the security sector know what we have agreed this morning, and we are going to proceed on it. It cannot happen in a free country like this that you murder security officers in that kind of manner under the guise of cat rustling. We will not accept it. And then we will remain in that part of the country and we will remain in that operation until we have collected every one of those people who murdered our police officers. Thank you.
Radios. The incitement by radios. I think it's important.
Yeah, Governor is reminding me about what we agreed in there. I've raised issues about, in this part of the country, we have some FM stations that we are looking at. I will request shortly my colleague, the Minister for ICT and the Communications Authority of Kenya. We will share the information that we have and the concerns we have. We are a democracy, and Kenya is a democracy. We chose to be a democratic nation by choice. Freedom of expression is our way of life now, but responsibility is also necessary. Some of those FM stations, especially in that northern part of the country, that are spewing hate, and some of them that are advancing anti-peace propaganda, we will not allow them. So before we invoke the Public Order Act, I want to say this. We have the option of doing that, but I will follow the law in the manner in which we are going to do it, by first of all making a request and bringing this to the attention of the Communications Authority of Kenya. We have a fallback position. All I keep saying every day is that in the interest and in the defense of our country, we cannot spare any of the options that we have. So if it comes to a point where we cannot agree and they continue doing that, we will invoke provisions.
That is Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i live from the KICD, where he had a consultative meeting with leaders from the northern Kenya in regards to the security situation in the country, and especially in Kapedo. Some of the things that he have touched on was deployment of more security officers in those regions, and also he has talked about the disarmament exercise that will be conducted aggressively. He has noted that some of the leaders are actually fanning and funding this kind of skirmishes. But he has said all is not lost, because even if that is not corrected, then he can invoke the Public Order Act as the last resort. That has been a live feed from the KICD. And on that note, I appreciate each and every one of you who is tuned in, including from our various media platforms, including Facebook. Charles Inyanje Karakacha saying uko ndani, Amir Chemukwenje pamoja nikiwa maeneo Triribe, Kwale County, Real Salmonella Taifi watching live from Rapogi, Migori County. Actually a very interesting name. But on that note, we are taking our first short quick break, but we will be right back with more news, including business and all the latest from the world of sports. Keep it Channel 1.
Enda pale kwa Palume. Wakenya. Kari ndio hii. No, sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Msichali Kate. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Uchukue mali yako. Uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probo.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo.
Shika ingine. Ndio ya kuendesha.
Onesha.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia. Uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Pro Box. Sasa hii Pro Box inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wa kwenye nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid. Ukweli.
Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee, ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na Quick Bid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quick Bid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
What you gotta do? Yes. Fuck it, I think I got a cold. Bless. Sibishani na majunior wanna know.
Guys, we are having a lead show lined up for you. Onoisi will be on.
Wacha moto iwa. Mindo champagne inalenga mbele. Mistari nazo ziko fine sikelele.
Miss Superstar Kenya will be gracing the show.
So people used to be like, body shaming. Oh, your legs are so skinny. Look at you. What can you do? People itakurusha.
Guys, there is a new association in town.
Tell me about
Stingy Man Association. Hey, these guys are stingy, man.
And they have a tagline. They have a motto. And that is?
When you ambie?
I'll see what to do. 10 p.m. release, baby.
The pain that I suffered watching my son that close to death.
The hospital said that your son was not expected to survive. Use the word miracle.
He saw things that I can't really explain.
Your son had a near-death experience.
I lifted up and I looked down. Mom was in one room. You were in another room.
Do you think my son went to heaven?
You don't have to worry. He told me everything was all right.
He's making a difference. Haven't we already had a glimpse of something? The first cry of a baby, the courage of a friend, the love of a mother, a father. I see it, so I believe it.
Do you?
Welcome back and thanks for keeping me company. Moving on, a section of traders in Kayole sub-county in Nairobi are up in arms with the area chief whom they accuse of engaging in corrupt dealings. The traders are claiming that the chief has been using proxies to impose illegal fees on them even after remitting necessary levies to the Nairobi County government.
According to the vendors, the chief operates through unscrupulous youth who demand bravery from them or risk having their kiosks demolished. The vendors accusing the chief of using brokers to harass them, adding it was hard for locals to access his office. The aggrieved residents now want relevant authorities to move with speed and address their concerns.
Ni juu sio bloka, lakini wawezi ingia huko uripoti kitu kama uko na shida, kama uchape ulipa kitu.
Sasa wataki tukae kwa hizi vibanda, wanataka pesa. Na hiyo pesa hatuna.
Raia tunataka sisi kama mimi nipate haki yangu. Hii ndio nasomesea watoto wangu, ndio nalisia watoto wangu. Saa hii mtoto hajaenda shule sababu sikupata pesa ya kumpea transport kila siku anaenda akotei.
Still in Kayole, a family in Nyaura area is crying for justice after alleged goons attacked them last night in an effort to evict them. According to the family, the attackers who are armed with crude weapons removed their house doors and damaged window panes. They later left with the items. The family, however, managed to flee by jumping over the fence. The distressed family is pointing an accusing finger to Akin, whom they allege wants to sell their property. The goons nevertheless promised to come back in a later date for further demolitions.
Elsewhere, the Kenya Plantations and Agricultural Workers Union KPAW is crying foul over a move by sunflower farms to outsource casual labor. The union claims the employers are trying to cut on expenditure by using the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse to secure cheap labor. According to KPAW Deputy Secretary General Thomas Kemboi, the current trend will disadvantage tens of workers who have previously relied on the sector for livelihood. The union has promised to continue defending the rights of workers and addressing issues such as salaries and working conditions.
With those firms which have privatized their employees or their sectors of the companies, so that they can deduct, they can get revenue from these companies.
Kuwa absorbed kwa hizi mashamba ni shida. So kuna wale wenye wamekuwa absorbed, yes, lakini wengi walikosa kazi. So tungeomba serikali, kama kuna tax yenye tunaona tunaweza fanya pira, tafadhali tusiongezee kwa investors, so that pia wa invest at least wakipata kitu yenye wakipata returns zao.
The entire CBA covers all farms, which is around 75 farms. They are using one CBA. When we negotiate once, and then it applies to all farms.
And more than 4,000 border operators in Laikipia County are set to receive smart driving license in an exercise that will run for the next 1 week. Laikipia East Member of Parliament Amin Mohammed says the program, which is a collaboration with the National Transport and Safety Authority, targets to benefit 7,000 riders.
Over 4,000 boda operators in Laikipia East constituency will receive smart digital licenses courtesy of CDF and the National Transport and Safety Authority. The operators lauded the service being brought nearer to them after endless journeys to Nyeri County to access NTSA offices.
Tumekaa kwa muda mrefu kama tujaweza kupata nafasi ya kupata hizo DL, na ilikuwa inatugharimu kutoka hapa kwenda Nyeri ndio weze kwenda kuapply, na hiyo ilikuwa ni hassle kubwa sana kwetu kama wakaji wa Nanyuki, na tunashukuru sana government yetu ya Laikipia East ya CDF kwa sababu ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumeweza kupata watu wa NTSA kuja hapa kwetu kuturahisishia hiyo safari ndefu ya kwenda Nyeri.
Laikipia East constituency Member of Parliament Amin Mohammed attributed the lack of licenses by operators to the high cost of acquiring the documents and distance involved.
Hii ni kusaidia vijana wa bodaboda kuweza kupata leseni kwa sababu ya
na kuwasomesha namna ya kutumia pikipiki kwa barabara ili kuweza kuzuia ajali. And also tumejaribu kupatia watu ambao wako hapa town, wale ambao wenye magari tumeweza kulipia watu 2,000 kwa zaidi ya hiyo mradi. So in total tuko na watu 7,000 in Laikipia East wale tunaweza kupatia.
NTSA Central Region Manager Boraguio said the exercise will run for the next 1 week and urged riders to turn up.
This will continue for a week. And we appeal to the residents of Nanyuki to turn up in large numbers and to take this opportunity.
And now to the rising disturbing cases of femicide. A 21-year-old woman has been arrested by Kiambu police in connection with the murder of her grandmother, Pauline Karanja, on the 22nd of August last year at her home in Kamwanya village in Dakwa within Githunguri town. According to Githunguri Sub-County Deputy Police Commander George Kipkoros, the suspect was traced to Nairobi's Ngara area after she informed the police of her whereabouts and admitted killing the old woman.
After 5 months of trying to unveil the murder of Pauline Karanja on the 22nd of August last year, the police have made a breakthrough. According to the police, a woman known as Mercy Wangare Gitimo called on the investigating officer saying she wanted to commit suicide for the murder of her grandmother 5 months ago. The police further said they traced the alleged suspect to Nairobi's Ngara area, where she was found on top of a building about to jump over. It is at this point that the police arrested her, where she opened up to have murdered her grandmother in a fight they had early today.
Kwa hivyo ni kazi ya DCI sasa kuendelea na kesi, maana tuna suspects wawili.
Elsewhere, a suspected youth has been lynched by a mob at Gatembe village in Bobarach ward after he was allegedly caught with stolen items. Dennis Nyaega, aged 27, was accosted at his home by a mob who entered the house and allegedly found the stolen property, which included a gas cylinder and meat, among others.
Halafu ndio ilikuwa taifa, watu wakaja, watu wapeka kuja wakamchoma taifa. Na kusema mwe alikuwa naipa tu na alikuwa sawa. Dalili tu ya wisi stani kama alikuwa anaonyesha.
Kisii County Police Commander Jebel Munene confirmed the incident and said investigations had started. Police removed the body to Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital mortuary. The police moved the body to Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital mortuary.
Unfortunate. Moving on, the Kenya Chamber of Commerce and Industry Busia branch has signed a memorandum of understanding with Alupe University to improve infrastructure, transport and business in the region. University Vice Chancellor Fabian Esamai termed the new development as a relief to the overstretched institution. The county at large.
This MOU with the Lupe University College will enhance the services provided by the chamber to the university, and especially matters pertaining to student accommodation. They will find ways of getting public partnership in terms of building those hostels, and also hostels within 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers from Alupe University College, which currently they are doing, but we would like them to enhance these facilities because the number of students is beginning to increase.
And we are ready as a Chamber of Commerce to support Alupe. They have a lot of deficits on infrastructural development programs. The Chamber understands, and the Chamber has the goodwill to support Alupe University.
Further afield, the Capitol complex in Washington, D.C. was briefly locked down after a security alert a day before Joe Biden was inaugurated as U.S. president. It is reported that the police acted out of abundance of caution after they witnessed reported smoke rising nearby that was several blocks away. Take a look.
Thousands of National Guard Reserve soldiers have been deployed at the capital and around central Washington, D.C. There was no threat to the public, officials said after the Monday's lockdown. The National Mall, the landscape park around the complex, has been closed along with many major roads. Fences have been put up around the White House. The inauguration rehearsal scheduled for Monday was postponed once on security grounds. All 50 U.S. states and the District of Columbia are on alert for possible violent protest. The FBI has warned of possible armed marches by pro-Trump supporters across state capitals. Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will take the oath of office in front of the Capitol building overlooking the National Mall. Normally, a crowd of hundreds of thousands would be there to witness a significant moment in American national life. However, between the coronavirus pandemic and security concerns, the size of the crowd is being severely restricted this year. On Monday, outgoing First Lady Melania Trump released a farewell message asking Americans to lead by example in caring for others.
Let's cross over to Europe now, where Russia's leading opposition figure Alexei Navalny will remain in custody for 30 days. Navalny, who was arrested upon arrival in Moscow for the first time since he was poisoned last year, termed the court ruling delivered inside a police station as a mockery and called for street protests.
Dozens of Russia's opposition politician supporters gathered outside the Moscow police station. Alexei Navalny was being held to protest his detainment and calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin to resign. Last August, the 44-year-old Navalny was almost killed in a nerve-agent attack and blamed President Putin. The Kremlin denied involvement. The opposition politicians' allegations have, however, been backed up by reports from investigative journalists. Russian prosecutors in detaining him said he violated the parole terms of a suspended sentence for embezzlement. Navalny claimed the charges are politically motivated. A makeshift courtroom was organized on Monday at a police station in Khimki on the outskirts of Moscow, where Navalny had spent the night. The judge ordered Navalny's detention until February 15th for violating his parole. Alexei will have another hearing on January 29th to determine whether his suspended sentence of 3.5 years should be replaced with a jail term.
Enda pale kwa Palume. Wakenya. Kari ndio hii. Oh, sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Msichali kete. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Uchukue mali yako. Uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probo.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo.
Shika ingine.
Ndio
ya kuendesha. Onesha. Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia. Uliwekelea bid ya ngapi, brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Pro Box. Sasa hii Pro Box inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wa kwenye nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid. Ukweli.
Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Welcome back. Let's now do business, where the government says 35% of all buildings in the country are unfit for habitation and will soon be demolished. Public Works Principal Secretary Gordon Kihalangwa blames poor workmanship as a result of limited financing in the construction sector, as most investors lack adequate capital to put up quality structures.
The country has in the recent past witnessed structural failures that have claimed several lives as a number of buildings under construction collapses. Though the amendment on the Construction Act that was passed last year gives the National Construction Authority powers to demolish faulty buildings, experts are blaming inadequate capital for substandard structures. The National Construction Authority says some developers lack finances to complete their initial designs, making adjustments midway, therefore compromising the stability of the buildings.
If you have got this new technology, if certain parameters are not addressed, for example, if you are doing a construction using the EPS and a contractor does not have the adequate money to ensure that that is done within a time frame, if it stays for a long time, it will just go back to. So it will actually not be less expensive.
National Construction Authority has started marking faulty structures, adding that many have failed to meet the required architectural standards. The National Construction Authority is drafting policies to formalize involvement of the SMEs in the 300 billion shillings construction sector.
Also, they have a lot of challenges because of lack of resources in terms of finance, in terms of access to technology, the skills, the access to the markets, both local and international, and also the issue of access to the market information. Also, there is a problem where there is lack of economies of scale and scope. They have higher transaction costs relative to the larger enterprises.
Developers have been encouraged to invest more in green buildings for sustainability. Benson Riopa reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Iran Vice President for Science and Technology Soreno Satari will lead a delegation of about 50 Iranians visiting Kenya next week to inaugurate the Iran House of Innovation and Technology. Iran's ambassador to Kenya, Jafar Bamaki, says the delegation will showcase new technology ahead of the upcoming Kenya-Iran Business Forum.
The old Iran Embassy building in Nairobi, which has been renovated and converted into the Iran House of Innovation and Technology, will next Wednesday host the Kenya-Iran Business Forum to strengthen bilateral relations between Kenya and Iran. According to Iran Ambassador to Kenya, Jafar Barmaki, the forum will be launched by Iran Vice President for Science and Technology Soreno Satari, who will be accompanied by 50 representatives from knowledge-based firms and companies.
Is going to head a delegation of almost 40 knowledge-based companies to Kenya to start the cooperation in this field and to start the center to have collaborations with Kenyan companies and Kenyan government.
The Iranian experts are from various fields, among them petrochemical, agriculture, health and energy, who are scouting for business deals in Kenya.
That's the good opportunity for the Kenyan companies to attend in B2B with Iranian companies to acquire the technology that they need for this country.
Barmaki says Kenya ranks second in Africa in terms of trade with Iran, and the Middle East countries keen on increasing imports of Kenyan products such as tea.
In terms of importing tea from Kenya, we have some negotiations with Kenyan authorities in this regard, and we have some delegations from Iran to come to Kenya in terms of the certificates that your tea needs to have access to Iranian market.
The envoy is encouraging interested local business people to attend the forum to connect with like-minded Iran business people after registering on the embassy website.
And it's a big relief to those powered via the Isinya substation, which now has an alternative transmission line that will minimize power outages. Those in Mombasa and Nairobi will be the biggest beneficiaries as they are powered by two 200 megawatts power lines.
Among reasons blamed for power outage is maintenance that sees Kenya Power engineers switch off specific areas. To minimize power outages in Nairobi and Mombasa, the government has completed the Isinya substation that will be used in case the other line fails. The new alternative power transmission line will mainly be used in evacuating geothermal power from Olkaria.
This station is running. It's taking a lot of megawatts. Apart from now taking the geothermal power from Isinya to Mombasa, it is also one of the stations that is now evacuating the geothermal power from Suswa to the load center, which is one of their major load center in Nairobi, through the river and Embakasi to the CBD. So in case in case of one of them is maybe for maintenance purposes, we can still evacuate all the power from Suswa through Isinya to Nairobi.
Officials say the alternative power substation situated in Kajiado County has been designed in such a way that it automatically supplies power to avert outages.
Power is stable in the grid. Should any line maybe say have some maintenance issues, or we are scheduled the line for maintenance where the customers will not lose power, and therefore Isinya comes in to take where now the other line has been maybe taken for outage.
The additional power supply has been backed to support the country's economy through facilitating industrial activities.
And some good news for small and medium enterprises in Kenya, which are set to benefit from a warehouse project under construction by Dot International Limited in Mavoko, Machakos County. The company plans to construct 36 commercial warehouses tailored for SMEs. The facility will have 3-phase power connection, common area generator, ample common area for loading and offloading, ample vehicle parking, among other amenities.
We are supporting Big Four. You see, Big Four is also real estate. In real estate, there is two divisions. One is affordable houses and also the Build Kenya. Whatever we want to import, we try to reduce as much as possible and we produce locally. So we are also providing them infrastructures so they can produce locally as much as possible.
To complete the project in next year, May, June, somewhere there. It's a 18 months project, and we are selling at 19.5 million, which after the completion, the value might shoot up to 25 million, depending on the market, how is taking up.
Now, the COVID-19 pandemic is significantly jeopardizing the intentions of Angola National Oil and Gas Agency to auction new 9 oil blocks concessions. According to Petro Angola, the spread of the virus has brought about a huge environment of uncertainty in the global oil and gas industry, negatively impacting the main fundamentals of the market. Here are those details of this story and others from across the continent.
The cancellation of more than 64% of the country's planned bidding in 2020 worldwide. Petro Angola says to reverse the situation, the National Oil and Gas Agency should equip itself with digital platforms and software to guarantee the minimum conditions for the bidding round it has planned. The study noted that regulation needs to be transparent, clear and simple, and that the bidding criteria as well as the licensing processes need to be made known by all interested parties. To make bidding more competitive and increase investors' interest, Petro Angola advised a review and readjustment in the terms of reference linked to the payment of signature bonuses, geological data acquisition, and social contributions and others. Meanwhile, at least 500 pigs have been killed by the African swine fever in Tanzania's northern district of Kakama in Shinyanga region. The pigs have been killed since the African swine fever, a highly contagious hemorrhagic viral disease of domestic and wild pigs, broke out in late December 2020. District authorities banned sales of pork after survey showed that the disease was spreading like wildfire. In March 2018, more than 900 pigs were killed by the African swine fever in southern Tanzania's region of Ruvuma. Finally, Zimbabwean government has approved a hike of fares for states operating intra-city public transport to prepare for reducing businesses amid the new COVID-19 lockdown. The fares will see a nearly 90% increase for various distance ranges for both conventional buses and commuter omnibuses. Zupco buses are the only means of public transport in cities after the government last year banned privately owned commuter omnibuses and instead invited owners of such vehicles to operate under the Zupco franchise. Zimbabwe reintroduced a nationwide lockdown beginning January 5th to contain the unprecedented spike of COVID-19 cases and deaths in the country. Under the current lockdown, the government bans all business activities except essential services such as those in hospitals, supermarkets, banks, and pharmacies.
Further afield, the UK's biggest lobby group, the Confederation of British Industry, has asked the government to extend its job support program until the end of June. British firms are asking for another £7.6 billion of emergency government help. Here are those details, plus much more in our International Business Roundup.
With the United Kingdom back under lockdown and companies adjusting to life after Brexit, firms are making big decisions about jobs and investments and need to know if their financial lifelines will be extended. The Confederation of British Industry says there should be an extension of the broad job retention scheme until June, which is scheduled to expire in April. The Federation says the extension should be followed up with the targeted support for jobs in sectors facing a slow recovery, such as aviation. If more support is offered before the budget, the Confederation of British Industry wants the budget used to lay out plans for the transition to net zero emissions to be used to drive the UK's economic recovery, reform the business rate system and incentivize more spending on innovation and skills. Meanwhile, Ankara, the Turkish capital, has imposed advertising bans on Twitter, its live streaming app Periscope and Pinterest after they failed to appoint local representatives in Turkey and a new social media law. Under the law, which critics say stifles decent, social media companies that do not appoint such representatives are liable for a series of penalties, including the latest move by the Information and Communication Technologies Authority. The law allows authorities to remove content from platforms rather than blocking access as they did in the past. It has caused concern as people turn more to online platforms after Ankara tightened its grip on mainstream media. Finally, Dubai has unveiled its key pavilion for the upcoming Expo 2020, the world's fair that's postponed for a year due to COVID-19 pandemic. The pavilion, Terra, the sustainability pavilion, features a 130-meter wide canopy installed with 1,055 solar panels that can generate 4 gigawatts per hour of electricity a year. Innovative irrigation techniques, including a grey water recycling system, are also used to reduce water consumption in the landscaping. The pavilion will open to UAE residents and visitors later this week to April 10th. Another 2 themed pavilions are expected to be open to the public in the first quarter of this year. Originally scheduled for October 20th, 2020 to 10th April 2021, the expo will run from October 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022 due to COVID-19.
Let's now focus on sports, where East African neighbors Uganda and Rwanda played out to a goalless draw in a game of few clear-cut chances at the Total African Nation Championships CHAN in Cameroon played last night. The regional rivals could not create the needed chances as they played cautiously in the second Group C match of the tournament at the Stade de la Reunification in Douala, Cameroon.
Ndarubiri the first miss.
Amavubi playmaker Mwajiri Akizimana grazed the crossbar on the half-hour mark when he dribbled past 2 defenders before his final effort failed to find the net. Captain Jackie Tuisenge also headed just wide in the 40th minute after an inviting cross from the right beat Uganda goalkeeper Charles Lukwago. The Cranes' only chance of the game fell to Aziz Abdukayondo on the hour mark after goalkeeper Olivia Quizera made a hash of an aerial ball, but the midfielder could not take advantage. Rwanda face an others task in their next game as they face holders Morocco this Friday, while Uganda take on debutants Togo in the group's other game of the day. In an earlier Group C match, Morocco claimed a 1-0 win over Togo.
Number 10 shuttle player of his side, an opportunity, no. Penalty. Penalty. He had armed his shot and was blocked by the Togolese as much as he can. Comes up with a kick. Kicks and it's been stopped by the Togolese goalkeeper. Oh la la! A golden opportunity for Morocco to take the lead. In getting that fit once more. This time he scores. This time he scores. Morocco's opening goal.
Tonight, Guinea will play against Namibia in a match that will be aired live on KBC Channel 1 and Radio Taifa. Frederick Mwoki for Channel 1 Sports.
And now to something that is going to lighten up or cheer up Arsenal fans is that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang netted twice as Arsenal claimed a 3-0 win over Newcastle in an English Premier League match that was played last night at the Emirates Stadium. Meanwhile, 2 matches are on the card tonight as West Ham host West Brom while Chelsea play away at Leicester City.
Great play from Partey there, took 2 players out of the game. Here is Aubameyang. Sensational goal from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. It's 4 in 4 against Newcastle for the Gabonese. And his return to form continues. The Arsenal skipper with a scintillating strike in a 7th of the season. Deadlock finally broken. Here's Smith Rowe, it's opening up for the youngster. Beats his man, all ends up. Bukayo Saka. And for the umpteenth time in this game, beautiful combination play from Emile Smith Rowe and Bukayo Saka. And Saka it is, who sweeps home another exhilarating team move, and surely Arsenal can put this one beyond all doubt. Here's Tierney, clever ball infield to Aubameyang. Tierney wants the return pass, which he gets. Oh, Lacazette inches away from what would have been another beautifully worked 3rd goal. Here they come again, Arsenal. Lovely ball from Saka. Lacazette denied again. Mark's interception was blocked. Saka finds Suarez. And there is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. And the goals are starting to reflow. And the points are starting to flow for Arsenal as well. And it's a 2nd for Aubameyang. Arsenal 3, Newcastle 0.
And that's how we wrap up Channel 1 lunchtime news. But for more of these plus others that will be uploaded later, remember our website www.kbc.co.ke, including all our social media platforms. Thanks indeed so much for watching. My name is Ben Troy Njue, and Simon Karuda has been my colleague on the bottom right of your screen. Until next time, do have a blessed afternoon.